Welcome to the RePsychled podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFanya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 98, Pretty Privilege. Today's mood music is Pretty Girl Rock by Carrie Hilson.
Every time I think about this, I'm always so sad.
I know, but I start wiggling.
But it's a cute song, though.
It is. I like the video.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I have two definitions and a question to start us off. Y'all ready?
Okay.
Okay. So I want to start off with the question. Is physical attractiveness valuable?
Yes. Short answer.
Okay.
Si, senora.
Same here. And we're going to come back to why it's valuable in just a second. So I want to give y'all the two definitions. One is privilege. And I'm going to read it because I like to give like real definitions, not summations. So privilege is a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. And pretty privilege is a person who has more opportunities and becomes more successful in life because of how attractive they are.
Accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do you all say yes? It's valuable.
That is valuable. I think the research is clear. That people that are considered to be more traditionally attractive get a pass. They're often given more opportunities, and not even necessarily opportunities just in like status. They're given more chances if they mess up.
Yeah.
They're given more access to things. They're forgiven much more frequently because people just want to be around them.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
So
Classic case is always Jeffrey Dahmer.
Mm.
I mean, we don't think he's attractive, but people thought he was attractive, that's why he got to hurt so many people.
Ted Bundy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Just out here eating people.
when your face card doesn't fail, you can get away with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would agree. I think also when people want to be successful, because some attractive people don't even have to be qualified to get the job, and they get it just because of their physical appearance.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. Some attractive people learn the game. Of course, there are going to be some people that are traditionally attractive that just don't know how to move around in social settings, so they don't get some of those privileges. But for those that do know how to move around the game and use their attractiveness to their advantage, absolutely, they can, on the female end, ham it up on, the cleavage or the bodycon dress or, whatever the way you wear your makeup or how you style your hair, your body movements and how flirtatious you are. All of those things go.
Batting your eyelashes.
Yeah, batting your eyelashes or the damsel in distress. All of those things play into your ability to manipulate, and manipulation is not always used to hurt somebody else, but
it can be for gain.
Yeah, in this case, it would be for me to get what I want, not necessarily to hurt you in that sense.
And I think it's something that is learned. I think when children are pretty children or, attractive children, like even their teachers from preschool, they teachers tend to gravitate to the more attractive children and, boost and build them up from there. And so they, develop that confidence in being able to approach people, communicate with people, be charismatic, and learn the gift of gab,
Oh yeah.
Because it works.
Yeah. I can think of so many times where people, oh, that little baby is so pretty, or he's so handsome, or all these things, and they be over there getting away with murder. So you just not gonna watch the kid because they cute, like
for sure. Oh yeah. I think we're just kind of hardwired that way. As particular to babies. I mean, that's why we find big eyes and big heads cute. You think about all small creatures, mammals specifically. You think about puppies or bears or of course humans, but everything, small, big head, big eyes. And we're like, oh my God, that thing makes me want to take care of it.
Just go to a whole other place. Oh
yeah. So I think, part of that is we are hardwired to look for certain things that bring out certain behavioral aspects of us to care for and gravitate towards whatever this thing is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even with high school, like you probably don't have a lick of athleticism, but you might be the star of the football team, basketball team, varsity cheerleader, dance team, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But just because maybe not the dance team, because you're gonna look quite crazy.
Performance based.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't hide so easily.
Yeah, you can't hide. But other sports and things you can hide because you can sit on the bench or you can just play another position and just run up and down the field.
The class president, homecoming queen, homecoming king. You rarely see it where it's like a truly good person too. So
although it's assumed
that more trash.
The more attractive you are, the more intelligent you are, the nicer you are, the more confident you are. It's assumed that's the qualifications or the characteristics that those people have.
Gotcha.
I agree with you.
So I was thinking about what you guys were just saying. The question you were asking, kind of about is attractiveness valuable or is pretty privilege valuable? Can't remember the specific wording. But when I was researching, part of what I was looking at, the thing that I found interesting is it talked about averageness and that it listed several qualities that are for facial attractiveness, not necessarily body composition.
Okay.
So this is purely facial. That certain qualities were considered to be the ideal. And actually the closer to average in facial structure you are, the more attractive you're considered to be. Of course, if you have less average looking features, those are considered to be, typically unattractive, but it's not necessarily the 10s that people find most attractive.
No, they're exotic, which I hate that word.
I can see that.
So the one that I was reading, they were talking about how facial dimensions are greater than body dimensions. And that with the face, it's the proportion on the face.
It's symmetry.
It's symmetry. It's both the size and the placement of the facial features.
Because if you do it, you walk around. It's not going to work out. And I'm saying that as somebody who got big eyes, and I have been like made fun of because my eyes are so big. So I understand. They like, let me lessen them. Is that better?
No, don't lessen them.
But I've heard that so many times. Kind of what Dr. Strickland talked about a few sessions back about the survival of the fittest type of thing. Like look, when you look at your partner and the attractiveness and times of the month, how they look, you want them to look this way this time of the month. It's very similar to that with pretty privilege. Like that symmetry, you can't be Quasimodo out here.
When you, that's exactly when you winked your eye. That was the first thing that popped in my head. I was like, Quasimodo.
He had a beautiful spirit.
He did. He did, but he was traditionally unattractive.
The cartoon and the real person.
But yeah, I agree with both of you guys about, the facial features and how they're placed. One of the pieces of that research, they did some computer generalized facial structure. And they had a study in there about what are called chimeric features. So basically, that's when you take one side of the face and just mirror it to the other side. That even chimeric images were not considered as attractive, even though it's a direct, copy of the other side of your face. What they found was that if you just move the current face into a more symmetrical, pattern, that was considered to be more attractive.
Yeah. I feel like if you do the mirroring one, I'm looking at you like, oh, so we cloning people now. Like, am I an iRobot? Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, that would creep me out because I would definitely be looking at it like,
it doesn't look natural.
Because like when I see the new not computer generated, but what are they called? We're going to call it a mannequin. I know that's not what it's called, but my brain moving slow. Those things that are coming out and they'll be at like airports or wherever, they scare me.
Like the Sophia one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, ooh.
And I think that goes to another part of the research that I found was that goes with attractiveness was facial expression and what we say about that socially. So I think that's what a lot of people find creepy about those types of AIs is that they're trying to mimic facial structure and facial movement, and they don't know how to move as naturally as a human face can move.
Yeah.
There's still a mechanical piece to it.
It's like, I'm sorry, y'all. I used to watch a lot of horror movies, and those are the type of horror movies I would watch where the robot's trying to get you, or it's an alien in a human body. Nope. No sugar water over here.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just kind of broadening that out about what we find attractive. Like if you even think about just animals in general, like we look for things that are beautiful. So, the male birds tend to be much more colorful and much more vibrant, while the, typically the female birds are kind of the just plain Jane looking ones.
Like the peacock.
There's this one bird that looks for the color blue, which is actually very rare in nature, interestingly enough. But they look for the color blue. So, she is looking to see like how blue his streak is and how much blue he can gather in, the nest area to determine whether he's mate worthy. So even, pretty much all species look for certain features, certain characteristics to be able to say yes.
And that's interesting because it's very objective, and we tend to seek people who we can, like you said, mate with to determine like, okay, is she going to be, fertile enough? Is she attractive enough? Is her age? Like we look at all of those things. And then for men, we look for different qualities that will allow him to be like, okay, no, is he, is he, I was going to say screwable,
Gonna give me that love jump.
Yes. He got to
need to review that.
He got to make it jump.
Fanny butters.
That's hilarious. You're gonna steal both of those. I love it.
So
no, but that is absolutely true. And I think because we've gotten so far removed from kind of that primitive way of living. And we're really cushy as a species. And I know, of course, people struggle on different ranges, but in general, as a species, we live a pretty cushy life in comparison to what, our way back ancestors did. So some of this stuff we just don't think about anymore, about pheromones and, all of this stuff, but it's still hardwired in us to behave this way. And, we haven't evolved that far.
Right. And the thing about it is I've even thought about like there can be an unattractive man that I see, but if you smell good, I'm sir, excuse me, sir. What is going on with this smell? Yeah. You smell delicious. You smell like my next husband.
I'm telling chocolate drop.
No, because he always smells wonderful.
But yeah, I agree. Definitely on that one.
Okay.
I think also that, we're talking about just kind of us as in general. So part of what I was reading was about that individualized ideas of attractiveness are not necessarily as important as we think they are. That we really do kind of have universal ideas of what is pretty, what is ugly.
Yeah.
And specifically they were talking about beauty is in the eye of the beholder and how that's kind of really like a false narrative for the most part.
It is.
Because if you line people up, they're gonna kind of regress to the mean, and for the most part, we're gonna find the same sets of things, regardless of what culture you grew up in, the same types of things attractive, and because they were talking about like neck stretching and lip stretching and different types of scarring. How even if you engage in those behaviors, if you still look at the person's facial structure, it still fits within what people consider to be attractive.
I can agree with that, because if you think about all of the actors and even actresses that we have identified as being attractive, it's like, yes, we all agree on Idris Elba. I think even the interns, you all agree with that too.
And he's sexy.
Yes.
He oozes it. We're not going to go there. Let me come back.
Yeah. I agree.
But it reminds me of how so many people want tall men.
We were just talking about that.
In reality, if you think about that, that's still a pretty, like, old school thing. Like, him being taller is saying maybe he's going to be more, he's going to be stronger. He's going to be able to do certain things. I mean, it is sexy.
No, I'm sorry.
But,
I'm sorry.
Look,
we was talking about that earlier, and I said, well, shorter women want taller men because he can pick her up. We need the wall action.
I've been picked up by various heights.
If we could zoom in on my face at this point in the podcast, this would be one of those moments.
I mean,
because I don't understand. So if for the interns that don't know us personally, I'm the tallest of the three of us.
Yes,
so
she may look shorter.
1, 2, 3, right? As far as height level. And I was telling Dr. Jones Hines over here that I don't understand why short women want men that are above 6 feet.
And I told her it's because they want to be picked up.
And I'm like, if you're 5 foot, a dude that's 5'7" can pick you up.
It's not the same.
It is the same.
The length of the arm,
6 inches taller
and
than
the
you.
length of the leg,
or 7 or 8 inches
different.
taller than you.
Now, I don't discriminate. Y'all know that. I date them in all sizes. But I also grew up with tall people. I am literally one of the only short people in my family. Y'all know this. I got long extremities.
Yeah, we always think you're taller.
I know. I'm only 5'2" though, and a quarter. 5'2" and a quarter. But I think that's part of my reasoning. Is because I grew up with extremely tall people. Like my grandfather's tall. My dad is tall. Like that was just normal. But I date. As long as you're a nice person and you're attractive to me.
Well, I have dated my height and above, but I'm also tall for a woman traditionally. The average one I think is 5'5" and below.
I think 5'6" now.
Is it 5'6" now?
Oh, I thought about it.
And I'm a little over 5'8", which is tall for a woman, and I have long legs, so that makes me look like I'm 6 feet. But I don't understand. I will never understand the 5 foot person and like the 6'4" person. Like I just don't understand.
It's not for you to understand.
I don't get that.
You don't understand short people problems.
I don't.
There's a song about that.
About short people problems?
Short people got. Yeah, it's bad.
Oh, okay.
That's something we didn't
We digress, because I ain't never heard that.
Yes.
But, I think, yes, when we think about tall, though, just in general, that it communicates something about a person's genetics.
Mm-hmm.
Strong genes. Which I think that's partially why people are getting taller. The average man height for a man has actually gone up from when it used to be 5'9".
Yeah.
I think now it's 6 foot, I believe now.
But when you think about it, people who are taller actually have more bone issues. It's not actually always the healthiest option.
But yes, once you get to the extreme levels, like 6'7", 6'8", 7 feet, yeah.
Because a lot of basketball players end up having bone problems.
Yeah.
Or osteoporosis sets in, knee problems, joint problems. It's a lot to move a bigger body.
It is.
Whether it's tall, whether it's weight, whether it's whatever. So I can understand that.
And I think that talks about some of the physical consequences of attractiveness.
Yeah, because there are consequences.
Right. But the social consequence of that type of attractiveness is you are more desirable, even though the physical consequences, you may have more issues down the line.
But even with like an emotional or mental consequence too, if you are an attractive person and you don't meet the standard of what people think, then now it's like, oh, wait a minute.
If you got like a bad attitude or
you got a bad attitude, or you're not competent in the job that you got, or whatever, it's like, well, now you become
unattractive.
Yes, you become unattractive, and you become I guess kind of isolated.
I have heard that or I've read or listened to Reddit posts and things from people that are what we would consider to be 10s. And they talk about that, how they actually are very lonely and find it very hard for people to take them seriously, because that's what people generally lead with them is their looks, and they just want to be connected to them because people like to be around attractive people, which means that attracts others, and the ability to network and be involved is higher, which ultimately though still leaves the super attractive person lonely.
Because something that I was reading was this young man was saying, he was a model, but I guess he was trying to retire or whatever, and he started getting jobs at like Abercrombie, what's the other little Hostler or something?
No, Hollister.
I was like, who?
I was thinking Hustler. I was like, no, that's a magazine.
I don't shop in the little Tina Bopper stores, but but he was getting jobs like at stores like that, and he said he knew it was because he was attractive, because he didn't even like really work in the store like selling clothes. He was at the door greeting people, and so he was like, the thing about it is because he started feeling like he was being used, and so it started affecting his worth.
I can see that.
That's a major part of what I read about the withdrawals of being pretty or attractive. You don't know who's really there for you. You don't know if people are really seeing the true you. Prime example is like when you see a fine boy, you always be like, nah, he a player. He might not ever had a girlfriend. It's unlikely, but that is a possibility. You know what I mean? So you do have a lot of preconceived notions. How do y'all feel ethnicity plays a role in pretty privilege?
So my initial assumption was that it was going to play a significant role in pretty privilege, but I literally could not find a single article that said that ethnicity had anything specifically to do with attractiveness or prettiness.
Gotcha.
Everything I found said that when you account for race, as long as the person's face is still following all of the criteria, they will still be considered to be attractive.
Yeah.
Now, I think when you add the intersection of behavior, I do think it changes. A problem. But if you're just looking at a person and asking, is this person pretty? I don't think it really matters.
Okay.
And I would have had the same answer until I didn't read that, but I did see the same article with the young man. It was another art, because this person was just identifying pretty people, or what he considers to be pretty people. And in the article, it had a Black woman she had a natural hairstyle. It wasn't in a fro, but it was a natural hairstyle. And she was pretty, but it was like, dang, okay, so he does have a Black person in this article. So I was like, well, maybe ethnicity doesn't matter. But I didn't read anything that said it.
Well, I think if we look back on history, we realize that ethnicity ain't stopped nothing.
I know.
Because that's how a lot of us got here. So ethnicity hasn't stopped anything. But it goes into more of what we're going to talk about next session, is the value of the person.
There you go.
So you can be beautiful, and I can want to do many things to you, but it does not mean that I want to claim you.
There you go.
And so that's the problem.
Right. And I think that's where the big difference is. I don't think if you're just looking at a person, you can think anybody is beautiful or handsome, pretty, gorgeous, whatever, descriptor you want to use. But again, your behavior may not necessarily fall in line because of what you believe about that person's ethnicity.
And the thing about it is, once the behavior either meets your standard or it does not meet, if it does not meet your standard, it immediately changes. Like, nope. And it could have been that person had a bad day. It could have been that somebody else provoked whatever, response or whatever, if it was response. But it immediately changes.
Yeah.
When I think about men that get rejected, when they go up to a woman or whatever, the first thing out of their mouth after that is normally, "That's why you ugly, B." And I'm like, I can't be too ugly. You came over here the first time.
There you go.
But that is something like
something.
Based off of them getting rejected, the behavior from the woman, it could be the sweetest rejection ever, but it's rejection nonetheless.
Yeah.
Now I got to get you. So. Oh
yeah. I think behavior dictates a lot, and everything is so intersectioned. When you think about class and pretty privilege and race/ethnicity and pretty privilege,
even though even privilege and pretty privilege.
Right. So there's a lot of layers that I don't think that people always dive into, that it's not purely just how you look.
Yeah.
That it's how you look and where neighborhood you come from. It's how you look and
your economic status.
Yeah, your socioeconomic status. It's how you look and how you behave. It's how you look and
your career.
Right. So it's not just you walk into a room and you're pretty and that's it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that go into what that's going to look like. But if you're purely talking about attractiveness and you're not accounting for all those other variables, then yeah, attractive people tend to do better. But when you start accounting for all that other stuff, some of these other privileges actually take more precedent over attractiveness.
Well, and then I also wonder, like, when you have a pretty person and, you hire them for a particular position, like I wonder if it's difficult for them to be challenged with actual tasks, because it's only certain things I think you can do because you're just so pretty. You can't have no intelligence. You can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
you can't get dirty. You can't mess.
Yeah.
It's too heavy for you, or
I think that's a real thing.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, absolutely.
I would think so.
And I would probably say, harassment is not as, we have laws and things for that now.
Yep.
But, 30, 40 years ago and before, it was probably ain't no thing to get slapped on the behind or something highly inappropriate being said to you. And, you just got to take it because that's just the flavor of the day.
But I wonder how many people do take it because they're attractive. Because if it was someone that was unattractive, it would be a sexual harassment lawsuit.
I have several clients right now that have that debutante almost lifestyle, grew up in that type of community, and because they grew up that way and they have that, they are very refined, very all these things externally, they don't know how to stand up for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be people touching them or doing weird things to them or getting too close. Like I had one client who was touched by someone she's cool with, like on her stomach. And that's a very like private, like get out, get pushed. But she didn't say nothing. You know, so it goes, some of these things that are being taught about being this, being attractive, being well put together, and this is how you should present to the world, is also detrimental to, you know, the person, the psyche. You know, we were talking earlier about, you know, the beauty pageant winner who passed away, you know, who completed suicide. You know, people thought she had it all together. You know, she's bubbly, she's having fun, but people don't understand that's not how depression works. You can present any type of way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's another thing, specifically to American culture. So I'm not going to talk about, because we live in America. That's something that's highly praised in our culture is attractiveness. I mean, we have beauty pageants for the whole show, Toddlers and Tiaras. You know, the whole point of these pageants is from infancy all the way up through Miss America, Miss Universe.
And one of them just completed. One of the Toddlers and Tiara young lady. And I was like, oh, and they all look brown people. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, it's very sad. So, you know, it's praised heavily in American society to be attractive and stay young, especially for, I would say, men are allowed to become distinguished. So as they get older, you know, turning gray and salt and pepper, you know, those things are not considered to be negatives for men.
I know. Yeah, it's sexy.
Yeah. Yes.
But not for women.
But not for women. Graying, even getting crow's feet or wrinkles around the eyes, you know, these are things that are considered to be aging, but acceptable as a man gets older. You know, like you said, it's like, oh, look, you got a little, you got a little seasoning on you. But as a woman, it's like, oh, you old hag. Why don't you go do something about that? Why,
you know what?
Some Botox?
I can definitely appreciate Nia Long's interview. I couldn't find exactly what she said, but I know, you know, the sentiment was that, you know, she's aged gracefully and, you know, she's still beautiful. And she was saying how, I appreciate the compliment, but y'all putting a lot of pressure on me to not age. You know, and she's still beautiful, but, you know, it's like, I can understand, like, that's a lot of pressure when you're beautiful like that, you know, because people are going to age.
Well, it creates an unrealistic expectation for what people actually look like when they hit their 50s, 60s, and beyond. There was a supermodel, and I'm going to forget her name. I want to say it's Eva Evangeline. I can't remember her name. But she had gotten some stuff done on her face, and she had a adverse reaction. And she was saying, now I can't make money anymore because I make money off of my face. And just thinking about, you know, this woman was a supermodel, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, maybe even to the early 2000s. And now, because her face doesn't look the way that it used to, her whole career is done.
And you know what? I was reading something about aging, and they were saying how what happens to a pretty person when they age. Because all these years, like, you've gotten jobs based on your appearance. You've been a model, you've been an actor or actress, you know, like, and no one has given you any other opportunity to be intelligent, to use your, you know, intelligence or, you know, whatever. So now what do you do when you age?
You know, I think for a lot of people that are in that position, they get forgotten. You know, people will still comment that you, especially if you're aging kind of like Nia Long, and you still look age appropriate in a very nice way. But I think you start to become forgotten. You know, people don't compliment you as much as they used to. And you start to be normalized a little bit. So I can imagine for somebody that has for so long been complimented and almost pedestalized, that you have to find a new version of yourself. Like, who am I now?
Yeah.
Without this piece of me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would, I would definitely say that pretty people, whether or not they're models, actors, actresses, athletes, whatever, they definitely, if they're using their beauty to climb the ladder, they definitely need to make sure they have something to fall back on, because or they need to allow people to see them as an intelligent person, not just a pretty person.
Yeah. I don't want, so one of the things I don't want us to kind of skip over, because we kind of touched on it a little bit, was ethnicity and pretty privilege and attractiveness.
Yeah.
Because I think colorism plays a huge role here. Not only colorism, featureism and texturism, I think play enormous roles here on what we, specifically within the Black community, on what we find attractive, not necessarily society at large. I think that we've kind of been pushed towards more Eurocentric features. So if we have a looser texture of hair, if we have more king features, a slender nose, Black people, we don't generally have a bridge like Caucasian people do, but if we have a slimmer profile here versus a much more bunted profile, if we have full but smaller lips, I think some of that, and of course, if you have any other shade than brown of eye,
oh yeah,
yes, none of us.
It's almost like a guarantee. It doesn't really matter what else you look like.
Oh, you got some pretty eyes.
Yeah. You get kind of reduced down to that. Because I was watching this one lady on YouTube. She's a dark-skinned Black lady, but she has blue eyes. And it's from a genetic anomaly that she has in her family line. But her eyes are naturally blue, and they are blue. Like, but she was saying how when she was younger, she hated it. Because it was like the only thing people wanted to talk about and the only thing people commented on. So, I'm just thinking about, how all of these other things play a role, specifically within the Black community on how we determine attractiveness.
I think you see it a lot when you look at the music industry. I think the music industry is a prime example of what attractiveness looks like in our culture. And, when you hear men and women say, oh, he got a type, or she got a type, or whatever the situation is, a lot of times that is going towards those more Eurocentric features and, women that look ambiguous, men that are, a certain look, and with men, it goes back and forth. It's either they ambiguous or they midnight Black.
I was just going to say, they light skin or they dark skin. They have a season.
Oh, in Hollywood, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of brown.
No, it's not any of the in between that is normally held up. But it's so sad to see that perpetuated over and over. Now, like what you like, we're not saying that, but it's just when it's like only this is beautiful. The exclusion is the problem. Yeah. It's not that you have a preference. It's that when everybody jumps on the bandwagon and it's like, nah, you ugly. Why am I ugly? Or why is this or why is that?
Right.
I think I talk about this, it probably has been a year now, but like when I go to functions and events, I am literally the only Black woman. Everybody else is Hispanic, or Caucasian.
I was just going to say, all the ones I go to, they are Caucasian.
Yeah. So I have my older relatives. There is, of course, is the younger, because we live in America, and if you come out, you're Black. Doesn't matter what you mix with in this country, you're Black.
That one drop rule.
So, but everybody in my age grouping is Hispanic or Caucasian. So it can be kind of jarring, is what I'll say. I mean, I love my family regardless, but it's just like, dang it.
I can see that.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that some of that intermix, you know, that intersection stuff that we were talking about, where we grew up, the types of friends that we had, our own social adeptness. So if you tend to be a little bit more shy, or you like things that don't fall within the norm, then you're going to be surrounded by people that probably don't look like you. As much as we like to think we're all these, you know, unique individuals, we really aren't. We all, for the most part, follow some subculture. You know, it's rare to be like, you are completely different than everybody else. You know, if you like Insane Clown Posse, there's a whole Juggalo movement, you know, and if you are, you know, a Black person that likes that type of music, you're probably not the only one. So you're not as unique as you think you are. So, but you will probably be surrounded by people that generally don't look like you. The same way as if you like, you know, Tejano, you're probably not going to be surrounded by most people that look like you, or in the reverse. If you are a non-Black person and you know, went to an all-Black school, or you went or grew up in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, you're going to likely like things that are in proximity to you. Because I think that's another thing about attractiveness and what we like is, if you look at the laws of attraction, one of them is proximity. And the closer you are to somebody, the more attractive you tend to find them. So if I spend a lot of time with you, you start to look better to me. You know, this is more that individualized attractiveness, not that, you know, social attractiveness. But, you know, if I'm spending every day and night and we just, you know, studying together and all this kind of stuff, and I start seeing your personality, all of a sudden your face start looking a little different to me.
Let me squint my eye.
Well, I think that comes with you getting to know the person. And so now you're looking beyond physical appearance.
That is true. So I have a question for you, ladies. Like I like to do. How has pretty privilege impacted y'all?
I never thought of myself as having pretty privilege. I just always thought I had favor from God.
I will chop you in your neck. You see this? I'm willing to record my violence that I'm about to let out of her.
I'm serious. I was like, ooh, look at God. That's all I say.
I never thought that I still don't think that I have pretty privilege. I think I'm a very average looking person. You know, if we were going to rate ourselves, I would probably be a 5. You know, I think I'm very middle of the road. I don't have, it's in Black community, I probably have a step up because I'm light skinned and I have, you know, that 3C, you know, 4A hair. So that probably would bump me to a 6. But, you know, I don't think, so I've never thought of myself in that way. And even from body structure, I don't have what would be ideal body structure wise. So I don't think I've ever received it from a pretty standpoint. I probably have had more light skin privilege than pretty privilege.
I can agree with, well, but I never even looked at it as light skin. Again, it was favor from God. God gets all the glory.
After I turn off this camera. Ironically, y'all, I agree with them. Because me growing up, I didn't see myself that way. I was nerdy. I mean, I'm still nerdy. I do agree with what Dr. Strickland said as far as, you know, being light skinned, you know, and I saw that firsthand because I grew up with one of my siblings who is darker complected. And he talked about, you know, how he felt, but he also had them beautiful, like, hazel eyes too, you know, when we talking about attractiveness. Shout out to Bubba. But I never really saw myself as pretty. I get how other people's perception of you comes out. But I think when you grow up the way I grew up with my head kind of in books and playing by myself and things like that, because me and my brother that I grew up with are 10 years apart. So
Gotcha.
I wasn't really aware of that. I didn't realize that there was a difference until people in my neighborhood started calling me Snob from the hood. Now, mind you, we did not grow up in the hood, so I don't even know why they said that. But they used to say that. And I was like, what are you talking about? You know, like I was more so stuck on, why aren't they liking me? Like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was pretty. I'm sure my mom and grandparents said things like that, but we were more so about, okay, did you learn your lessons? Reading books. Like, we were very much about mind. We weren't about how you look, and we were about practicing the things that you're interested in. So I agree with you, ladies. It's not something that I was aware of. I'm sure it's there, so I'm not denying that, but it was not something that I became aware of unless somebody said something to me. You know, well, this is happening to you because you're pretty, or this is happening to you because of this. And I'm like, what?
Which is why I say mine has been more some of the other privileges, because something that I've always been commented on, even now, is my hair.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always commented on how long my hair is, or how, you know, you have quote unquote good hair. You know, being part of the baby hair brigade, you know, like, so like, if anything, that's probably been the one thing that I've consistently ever been commented on, even when my hair was relaxed, you know, because I've always had almost near waist length hair. So
same.
That's probably the one thing that if I had to say was a pretty privilege for me, it would be that, but not like facially, like facially or body structure or anything like that. I didn't date a lot in high school. I didn't date a lot in college. You know, as in my adulthood, I did more, but
I had a lot of boyfriends in high school.
So, which is why I say I'm not traditionally an attractive person. I don't think that I'm ugly, but I'm not a traditionally like, oh my God, you know, ain't nobody coming running over to come say you so beautiful. Which is okay.
I had people to tell me that I was pretty, but I was a tomboy. So it was like, yeah, shut up. You know, it just kind of brushed off, but I always got complimented on my hair because I danced. And so when you're a majorette, you know, your hair, you swinging your hair, and it's like, girl, your hair's so pretty. But, thank you, appreciate you. You know, but I never took anything from that. And like I said, I'm light skinned too. So it's like, I mean, I think I had the pretty privilege, I guess, from being light skinned with pretty hair, and I could dance, and I was smart.
Yeah. Now I know our interns will probably have a different perception of us. I know that. So whatever you think about us is your business. Yeah. But we're just saying what our experience of living as ourselves has been, and we really have not.
Like I said, I just thought all of my blessings was from God.
Yeah, and I would say I didn't gain a lot of this perspective until I was older. You know, when I was younger, I would not have even thought in these terms at all. I don't even think I knew these terms when I was younger.
We grew up in eras where nobody talking about this stuff.
Right. But when I think, now that I know, you know, the idea of light skin privilege and texturism and all that kind of stuff and featureism, when I think back on some of my experiences now, I can see where, oh, okay, that was, they pushed me to the front because I fit this narrative of being this light-skinned girl.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. But of course, as a young person, you know, I didn't know that. So that's why I was saying I think I've had some other privilege versus what we're specifically talking about.
No, I agree.
But it is what it is. You know, as you get older, you learn and you do different. You learn more. You know, I think you can maneuver around a little bit differently now that you're more intellectually aware of what these things mean and how they interplay and how they are used in a social setting, in a work setting, in a romantic setting. You can maneuver and do differently and do better.
Because I definitely now, you know, depending on what the situation is, I question it because, you know, I don't especially when it comes from the opposite sex. It's like, what's your agenda? What you doing? What's this? You know? So I definitely, I'm not real receptive depending on the situation. Yeah. So I don't take advantage of any situation because, like I said, I, at first it was just like, oh, this is what but now it's like you said, now that I am aware of whatever privileges I may have, no.
It makes me wonder why we were all so oblivious to it. Because I don't think any of us are ugly, you know, but I don't know if that's because we were just very focused on the things that we needed to be focused on, because life had a lot of life in it going on. So I don't know if it's that. I don't know if we just had those type of parents that really were like, hey, these are the things that you need to be focusing on. Let's make sure we immerse you in it. I don't know what it was.
I think for me, that's just not where I was. Like, I wasn't focused on it. Like my head was either in the books or on dancing. That or well, my father was a minister, so on God too. Yeah. So you know, so it's just like I wasn't. That's not because, like I said, I was a tomboy, so I wasn't even thinking about that.
I think, and I've talked about this on several sessions previously. I was a very timid, like super mousy person. So I would have not ever thought that about myself because I was super shy. I mean, I would cry at the drop of a hat. You could look at me wrong and I would take that personally, and you couldn't even been looking at me. So being super shy and timid, you know, very socially fearful, I think played into that. I moved, being a military brat, we moved a lot. So I don't have like a home base where I grew up around these people and these are my experiences with these people from this age all the way up. So I don't have any real like throwbacks that I can say this group treated me this way. And as I got older, I was very okay with being the cool person. So that was always, you know, like out of the crazy, sexy, cool, I was always the cool. So I flitted around to different groups, you know, very much as I got older, a social chameleon. So I think that also kept me from entering into some of that kind of pretty world. Because I just didn't really fit in with any particular group.
Yeah. And I think when I look at me, I was bullied for the majority of school. You know, and I also was very like, forget y'all. So I was like, I needed to create my own world. That's why books are my best friends. You know, those people don't hurt you. Those people, you can read it over and over again. You get to go to different worlds and different settings and environments. So I found that to be a kinder place than the schoolyard. So I think it's that. I think it was also that I knew and observed that people couldn't be trusted. And so because of that, I just realized that I'm not really paying attention to anybody else. So even when I was in dance and even when I was in, you know, all those extracurricular activities, I looked at it as performance based. I didn't look at it as anything else. I was like, I need to do a good job because I have said that I'm going to be part of this team or whatever. And I really took on more of a nurturer role in every group I've ever been in.
See, I took on the little sister role. I was cool with everybody. Like, it didn't matter what group you was in. I was just cool with everybody. So I was everybody's little sister because I was known as the good girl. So I appreciate you. I'm the good girl.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff here.
Yeah.
But I think pretty privilege is a real thing. You know, some people would say it's not, but I think it is a real thing, but it's just layered.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not its own on its own.
So do y'all think that having pretty privilege is a good, I don't want to say good or bad, negative or positive?
I think it has its pros and cons. There are benefits. It can help you get your foot in the door, obviously. But also there are other stereotypes that pop up, and people might think you're dumb. Yeah. Prime example, dumb blondes.
That's literally what I was
thinking. And it's
thinking Anna Nicole Smith, Marilyn Monroe.
And these women were intelligent, you know, but they played it up so that they could get into the doors that they got into. You know, unfortunately, both of them passed incredibly early, probably due to some pretty privileged stuff.
Yeah.
So I just think it's pros and cons to both sides of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
All right. So y'all know that we normally end off with a quote, and if I can get to it,
because it's a good one, y'all.
This is one you're gonna have to, you know, hit on your phone. If you're looking on YouTube, you know how you can just tap, 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 and they go back 30 seconds or whatever. It's going to be one of them quotes you might have to go back and listen to it a couple times so it really sink in. But like I said, if I can get to it. Okay. Our ideas about love and attractiveness are so primal, our need for belonging so intense, that most of us are loath to abandon our favorite beliefs on these issues. If you've ever let yourself feel lovable and lovely only to be deeply hurt, you may see accepting your own body as a setup for severe emotional wounding. And that is brought to you by Martha Beck.
Must be his volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at the RePsychled Podcast.
If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.